And thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. My name is Keandra McDole. I am a community activist throughout the whole state of Delaware. I am a smart justice ambassador through the ACLU. And I'm very active in the community. Anywhere where injustice is at, that's where I get involved in. So thank you for having me tonight. The topic of tonight's conversation is about probation and why Delaware needs probation reform. Delaware needs probation reform. I actually have been on probation one time, and I did regular probation and pretrial probation. And probation in Delaware, my hardest part was finding a place of employment when I was on probation, because the probation officers, they actually like to go to your job and talk to your boss. And they would even like to check your time clock to make sure you're clocked in when you're saying you're clocked in. And a lot of employers do not feel comfortable with that. A lot of employers now don't even want to be bothered with it because it's like an extra step. We have a lot of stuff to do already, and whatever workforce that they're in. And it's just too much. You have to stop doing your job to tend to probation officers. I almost got violated from probation one time. Violation is when basically the next step can be jail, because I was at work and I was scheduled an 8-hour shift, but there was an opening for another 6 hours that I wanted to do. And I decided to go ahead and stay at work for another 6 hours. And my probation officer showed up to my house and I was not home. Not one time did he ever call my cell phone, and say, hey, let me call Keandra and see if she's at work. She might not be out partying. And then I got the next day, like 9 o'clock in the morning, I never forget, I got a phone call from my probation officer telling me that I needed to be in his office by like 10 o'clock that morning. I had to be to work at 11. So yeah, after I explained everything to him, I got put on like a probation period on a probation period. A probation period where I had to, it was set that I had to come in every 2 weeks, but being as though that I missed curfew, I had to come in every week. You get urine tests to see if your urine is dirty. You can't do anything. Like, I had family functions. I had just came home from prison. I've been in there for 3 years, and family wanted to have family reunions and stuff like that. And my probation officer wouldn't okay the event. I couldn't go there. It was crazy. My great grandmother got sick real bad. She had aneurysms. And my aunts and them had work and stuff, and they was going back and forth to the hospital. And I was like, well, maybe I could talk to my probation officer and see if I could sit with my mom while y'all can go ahead and go home, take a shower, go to work and stuff like that. He told me no. So it's probation officers, the way I look to it as, they need to make like different rules, not going above and beyond, but different rules for different people. Like, if you have a probationee who is not a troublemaker, they work, they do this, I think they should be a little lenient on that. It's like impossible. It's like it's set up for failure the minute you get out. I felt like when I was out, I felt like I was still in jail, just able to smell fresh air. That's how I felt. It wasn't something that I was able to use like, okay, I did 3 years in prison. This is a way for me to like gently branch myself off into society without having a probation officer. No, I felt like I was in jail every day because it was just so much. And you can't call your probation officer and say, well, like I said, I need to stay. Can I stay at work a little later, or I have to go in earlier to work? You can't do that because probation officers, they act like I don't know, people in the Army don't even act like that, the drill sergeants. So it was just real tough. And the crazy part about it is when I came home, I wanted to change my people, places, and things. So I was from Wilmington, Delaware, but I actually went to and stayed in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, because I just wanted to get away from what I was used to try something different. And they don't have like any resources or anything to help. Like, I struggled with finding like how to get a copy of my ID and stuff until I heard about the Friendship House, because they help you with your IDs, they help you get your birth certificates or stuff and stuff like that. If they pass SB 345, it would mean a lot for everybody. My hardest thing was being on probation. Like, I was doing good, but I thought that I should be entitled to an early release. And I wasn't entitled to an early release. I did 18 months on probation, which I felt like after a year that I should have been fine. I never gave a dirty urine. I never like gave any problems other than that one situation at my job. And it's like, I just felt closed in. I felt like I was still in jail. I'm like, I did my time, and then it's times that my family wanted me to come up to Wilmington and I couldn't come. I had a 10 o'clock curfew and it couldn't be extended. Normally you can reach out to your probation officer and get like a pass to go to certain stuff, but I had a mean PO. I don't know where this PO came from. He was very mean. And I don't know. It's just, it's hard. I wanted to work and go to school, but I wouldn't have been able to work and go to school and still having to every week to go to my probation officer to check in or this, that, and third, or had to go from work to probation building to school. It just wasn't working for me. So I couldn't even go to school. So I'm asking that everybody support Senator Marie on this bill because it's needed. It will save people from having to go back to jail for stupid offenses. Like I have my brother now who is home. He just got done doing level 4, which is house arrest, the ankle bracelet. And he's on level 3 now. And one of the hardest things for him is getting a job. He got shot 3 times. So he still, 2 of the bullets are out, but he still has a bullet inside of him. So he smokes marijuana, to ease the pain because he doesn't want to be on Percocets because you get strung out on them. And he's like doing a dirty urine. So that's like a violation, even though he's in contact with a doctor to get his medical card for marijuana, but still, it's still testing dirty without it. So he had to make a decision to be in pain or violate and go back in jail. It's just a lot to deal with. Like, I think every probation officer should be able to set certain things for certain people. If you don't have a troublemaker, you really know as the minute you look at a person is if they're going to do good or if they're going to do bad. And it's just like, allow people some type of breathing room. If not, that's why our prisons are so filled up right now, is because we have people in jail for dirty urines. We have people in jail for missing curfew. We have people in jail for missing a visit. It's not like they give you a ride to come see them. You have to catch the bus if you don't have a car. There's even a probation fee. I don't know if you know that, of $250. So when you get out of jail, you have to pay a $250 fee to be on probation. So it's just a mess, and it's time for Delaware to go away with a lot of things and make new laws for change. Like the years are changing, but our laws are still staying the same.
Schedule probably after.
Yes. Did somebody say something?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I missed that. Well, certainly that's information that is somewhat hard to understand and hear. And I certainly appreciate your comments on that. Could you tell us a little bit more kind of what you're doing with, the ACLU now, and what are some of the things?
Yes. So I'm a member with the ACLU. We basically hold town hall meetings to bring different communities together to explain to them and teach them about the new bills that are being put on the floor or going to be presented on the floor. We do a lot of everything. I'm more so I deal with police brutality. My brother was murdered by Wilmington police in 2015, September 23rd, while sitting in his wheelchair. He was shot 16 times, sorry. So I pretty much am fighting for reform in the police as well as probation, because it goes hand in hand. We just try to bring out the community together to speak to them about the importance of everybody being involved. Like, this is not just a police thing. This is just not a probation officer thing. This is a community thing, and everybody has to play a part in this. And that's just basically pretty much all that we do. We just fight for any injustice, and it doesn't matter what color you are, how old you are. If something is done to you, we come out and we help support you.
Wow. Well, thank you for those comments, and certainly there's a lot to think about and ways to move this forward. So as far as actions that the community can potentially help you with? Is it to focus specifically on this bill?
Yes, we need help with the bill. We need help with we do canvassing where we pick a different section, Wilmington, Newcastle, and so forth. And we go canvassing, knocking on doors to get people to like sign postcards and stuff like that. And the postcards we actually save them and send them in to our legislators and stuff like that so they can see how many people in the community support this and how many people wants this bill to pass. We hold Zooms a lot. We have a Smart Justice Ambassador meeting every month. Anybody is able to join through the ACLU. We try to teach people, even as far as people, we just basically try to teach people the importance of putting pressure on your senators to pass good bills with meanings, not empty bills. I call them empty bills. I'm sure the ACLU calls them different. But I call them empty bills because you will see if you pay attention that we get a lot of bills passed, but there's never that much fine print to tell you exactly, like in detail, what this bill needs to do. They're quick to pass bills with nothing. That means nothing. So that's what we do at the with the Smart Justice Ambassadors. Sorry, my kids are in the background.
No, that's great. Thank you for that information.
Yes, and if anybody wants to join us for Smart Justice Ambassador meetings that we have monthly, and it's different people from all different types of background who does come, you can go to the ACLU page and they post all of our meetings on there. We have some for Kent County, Newcastle County, and that's how you'll know what's going on in your area.
Okay, thank you for that.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, please. That was going to be my next.
Oh, yeah. What does the $250 probation fee that you have to pay? Have you been given any explanation about what that is for and why it's required? I guess that's one question. And the other is there any financial help available for folks to pay that? It seems like if you're coming out of prison and you don't have an income, it just is a really unreasonable requirement as far as I can see. So
yes, we believe people on probation believe the same thing. We feel the same way you do. And it's basically, I guess, a probation fee for you to be on probation. I don't know. There's no fine print to explain it other than you have to pay a probation fee. I do know that if you're on Medicaid or get some type of state assistance, that you could bring in a copy of your Medicaid card and bring in your Medicaid card and your probation officer make a copy of it, and then that is supposed to waive it. And there, somebody put in a chat section that the Friendship House pays for it. But like I said, I submitted my Medicaid card at the time. I just got back something in the mail stating that I owe a probation fee, and I haven't been on probation since 2012, maybe. So I don't know. Thank you for reminding me. So yeah, but I don't really, I guess it's called a probation fee, a fee for being on probation. And you come out of prison broke. Not too many people come out of prison with a job. I mean.
Oh, man.
And the other challenge is that means you have to get insurance. So you don't come out of prison with all of your documentations ready to go. So it takes a moment to get that. So it's a vicious cycle. It really is.
That is so very true. It takes you about maybe, I believe social service as far as Medicaid and food stamp goes now, it's like a 30-day, 60-day process now. So you have to wait that long to even get Medicaid and food stamps. But I'm not sure about the Friendship House. Somebody put in the chat that they do help you, but I do know the Friendship House helped me with ID and I believe my birth certificate. I believe so. And First Aid Community Action too. They help a lot as well.
Yeah, so I work for Friendship House, and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so you are correct. We do. I'm so glad we're able to help you. And if you do get stuck with some random fee, come back and visit us. We'll try to help
Yes,
you
I
out
will.
with that.
Thank
So we
you.
will help with parole fees, knowing that that is quite a burden for folks. And the other challenge is, and Hanif, if you know more, you can correct me on this, but my understanding is you're not done with your court sentence until every fee is actively paid off. So you're not done with parole, even though you might finish your time with it. Until that fee is paid off, you're actually not out of parole. So that has held people back for quite some time because they're struggling
Yeah.
getting ahead with those fees.
Yes, and what they do is, so if you're at level 3 and you're finished your probation, they'll flow you down, they'll take you down to level 1 until them fines and fees and restitution and everything else is paid off. You'll be on level 1, and that's still checking in, going to see them every month. It's still a headache, and then the probation officer can still come knock at your door, even though you're at level 1. And I don't know if any of you are familiar, but they don't knock on your door very nicely at all.
Explain the levels a little bit. Where do you go? Where do you start? And I assume you work down to level 1, but explain those levels a little bit.
So pretty much the level. So in Delaware, it starts off at level 5, which is level 5 is incarceration. You're in the prison system. Then after level 5, after you serve that time, you can get flowed down to level 4. Level 4 is basically house arrest, or they can send you to work release. Work release is where you live there and you can work. You work, live there, work, live there. You can go home on the weekends. Level 3 is your home. You have to check in every week at a specific time. Level 2, you're checking in, I believe, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks for level 2. Level 1 is you check in every month. And that's the one that you will be stagnant on for however long until you get done paying your fines, fees, restitution, or whatever. Even if you have a drug program that you have to do, they'll keep you on level 1 for that too.
Thank you. Hanif, did you have something to add? You can unmute.
While you're waiting for Hanif, I just wanted to say hello, everyone. This is Senator Pinkney. Apologies for being late. I was at a fundraiser and I am in commute now, but I just wanted to pop in and say hello. It sounds like Keandra has brought y'all up to speed on a lot, but I wanted you to know I was here, and if there were any specific questions for me, I'm happy to answer anything as well.
Marie, thank you. And we were told you were going to be coming at 7:30, so you weren't late. We appreciate you stepping in and adding to this conversation, so we appreciate it. Any questions again for Keandra?
Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was multitasking. I see the host has asked me to unmute. Was there a question or a comment that I could address?
Andrew gave us quite a lot of information, and I think we just wanted to hear what you perhaps could add, but she gave us quite
for sure. And I wanted to say I did catch the beginning of what Keandra had to say, and this is why I introduced her to Lynn and asked her to speak on the panel, because Keandra, being someone who has experienced it in the recent past, could speak to it much better than myself. But what I will add is the new legislation that Senator Pinkney is going to be introducing. It is going to be a copy of SB 345. And this is so important to make sure that we get these 3 basic points of the old SB 345 passed. And that's probation being limited to 12 months. Nobody being incarcerated for a technical violation without a new crime. That means nobody deserves to go to prison because they missed an appointment with a PO. Nobody deserves to go to prison because they have a substance abuse or mental health issue. And nobody deserves to go to prison for missing curfews. And it also will allow for customizable terms of probation. Probation should be elevating people and not getting in the way of people. And when I say that, if an individual is working a full-time 9-to-5 job, probation should be supporting that and encouraging that, not making a person choose between keeping my job or reporting to my probation visit, right? If an individual has an opportunity to work in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Maryland, and I say Maryland, especially for our downstate residents, who working in Maryland is an easier option for getting a livable wage job as opposed to working in Sussex County, then the probation officer should supply means to help that individual and support that individual and not tell them no, because we can't trust you working out of state. So we want to see probation reform legislation pass, and I hope all of you will help support Senator Pinkney, Keandra, and myself in our efforts so that we can help reduce the prison population and help people get a true second chance to reentry when they come home from prison.
Great, thank you, Hanif.
Do you have any co-sponsors of the SB 345, or are you looking for them right now?
I can answer that. So we had several co-sponsors on SB 345, and I anticipate that all of the co-sponsors that we had last year will be willing to sign on again. The thing about SB 345 last year is that when we put it out on June 30th. So we knew we weren't going to be running it. We just wanted to be able to have as much time on the break talking with people about it. And so some of the names that were going to be on the bill aren't on the actual filed SB 345, but we had conversations with many legislators who wanted to be a part of the bill. And I've already been having conversations with them again about who wants to be co-sponsors when we reintroduce it. Actually, what we're going to be doing is entering the new version of SB 345 into the March 1st pre-file, which means I'll be sending the bill around next week to legislators, asking them to co-sponsor it before we file it. And so now is a great time, if you have a relationship with your legislator, now's a great time to send them an email to say, please sign on to the probation reform bill that's going to be coming around next week. We're excited about it. We're looking forward to it and hope to see your name when it's pre-filed on March 1st.
Thank you, Marie. So that's a great action item, what you just said, as far as something we can do and also recruit, our parishioners and friends to impact this bill. So you're basically saying to write or send a postcard or do something to our current district representatives and ask to support this bill.
Yep, and that's something you can do as early as tonight, tomorrow, or early next week, because it will be in their mailboxes. So typically what we do before we put a bill for a pre-file, we send it around to all the legislators and ask them to co-sponsor it. That way their names are on it when it immediately gets filed. And so they will have access to the bill next week. And so now between now and next week is a great time to email them and ask them to sign on to the bill. And what I anticipate is that we'll have a deadline for them to sign on by Friday of next week. And so anytime between today and Friday of next week is a good time to just email them and say, please sign on to this bill.
So that will show up on will that show up now on the legislative agenda that you can always access that online?
You can access it online once it's filed. It's not filed yet. It will be on the March 1st pre-file. So you all would be able to see it on Legis after March 1st.
After March 1st, okay. That was the question.
But you would like the co-sponsors before the March 1st, is that right?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Yep. You can email them from between now and next week and ask them to co-sponsor. And then if they don't co-sponsor, once you see it on Legis after March 1st, then you can email them again and ask them why they didn't co-sponsor. But
Right.
now is the very nice, hi, hello, this is coming, please sign on kind of email.
And if I can just follow up quickly, are you looking for representatives as well as senators or just senators?
No,
Okay.
representatives and senators.
Thank you.
Marie, I briefly just introduced you to the people on Zoom here tonight about your background. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more of, what you're trying to do from the
Sure.
bill that you're sending out.
Sure. I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace. I'm going to be walking in the house right now, and I have one thing about me that you get to know is that I have a 95-pound German Shepherd who does not realize that he's 95 pounds. And so when I walk in the door, he might get a little loud and rowdy.
That's all right.
If you hear that, please forgive me. So I am obviously Senator Pinkney. I represent the 13th district. I much prefer for people to just call me Marie. The 13th district is parts of Newark, Newcastle, and Bear, Delaware. And I chair corrections and public safety in the Senate, and of course have been working with the ACLU, ODS, advocates like Keandra and so many others for well over a year now on this probation reform bill. Hanif told you pretty much what it does and some of the most important parts of the bill. Some of the other things that I would add that the bill does is also to increase our data collection, which is something to me is very important. I know to all the nerds out there, you know how important it is to have data to be able to see how many people are on probation, how many people are successful on probation, how many people are violating, what are the demographics of people. And so the bill will also start to collect that data and make it publicly accessible. It will also redistribute some of, there's the German Shepherd, sorry. Will also redistribute some of the collected fines and fees that Keandra was talking about, and some of those fees will start to be redistributed back to community partners, but not just fines and fees that are collected from people, because one of the things that we did last year was a fines and fees bill, and some of you may have been involved in that effort.
Yes.
Of decreasing a lot of the fines and fees that we collect. But there are other ways that probation collects money from partners with the federal probation and things like that. And so we'll be redistributing some of those funds to our community partners like the Hope Commission, like Second Chances, The Way Home, to the people that are doing data and evidence-based programs that we know have really higher outcomes than probation itself has. And so some of those fees will be redistributed to help those successful community partners. Like Hanif talked about, the personalization of probation, I think is one that is really important and worth mentioning, so that people who were went into prison and did not have any type of substance abuse problem and came out of prison and still didn't have substance abuse problems, they're not going to be having to do substance abuse treatment when they come home on probation, because it's not necessary for them. So those are some of the biggest things of the bill. There's some other small things that the bill does that probably don't feel small when you're going through them. Like, a lot of people may not know that even when you apply for a marriage license, when you're on probation, there's questions about that. That's not really necessary in that process. And so making probation a little bit less intrusive and more of something that is supportive of people and useful to people, so that they can, in their transition back to home, feel like they have support and not like they have somebody watching and waiting for them to mess up.
Thank you. Anyone else have some questions?
Donna has a question.
Are you on mute?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Senator, I was wondering if you were aware of the new, I think it's Vera Justice article that just came out about the number of incarcerated persons in this country, and what can be, they put forth also some information about what can be done and what kind of process can be done to correct the situation. Have you seen that at this point? I can send a link if not.
I don't think I have, but I'd be happy to take a look at it if you want to send it over.
Okay, I will look it up and send it over for you and everyone else to take a look at.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
And I would just like to add that if you talk to people who just come home from prison, like their worst fear is getting on probation. Like, you have a bunch of people who would rather spend an extra year in prison to come home on without probation. Like the way that probation is now, it's set up for you to fail. It really is. And for people to be in jail for 3 and 4 years and 5 years and say, hey, I'd rather spend an extra year, year and a half in jail than come home on probation. Like that's pretty sad and sickening for real.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, people shouldn't be set up to fail.
Certainly agree with that.
Senator, I was wondering, I'm looking at a list of probation reform recommendations that the ACLU put out, and the the first one on the list was the shutdown Operation Safe Streets and the governor's task force. Is that a part of your current efforts?
That's not in this bill, but it is on my radar.
So is it a bad question? Why isn't it on the bill?
I think we had conversations about it early on, and I believe the reason was because it would require separate legislation. It wouldn't, I don't believe that it was in the same pieces of the code that this bill addressed. I think that's the reason why we talked about it really early on.
Okay.
Anyone else? have a question?
Could you explain a little bit more about what that is, that bill that you just asked about? The issue that you just asked?
Were you talking to me or were you talking to Mr. Nance?
I'm
Well, I don't
glad
know.
for you to explain it. Just what is Safe Street?
I don't really know the details, Marlis, but it's an effort that's been around for years. It was adopted by the city of Wilmington early on, and then it moved through the state, as I understand it. Basically, it feels to me like it's a combined effort between the probation people. That may not be quite the right title, but the probation folks and the police. So this team of officers go around the streets and abuse or pick on or follow up or do all kinds of things to check on the person that's on probation. So I think it feels like to me that it's the combination of police and probation folks are harassing people that are on parole, and they've been another way of forcing them to do things or to have penalties imposed on them because they don't meet the fine points of their probation. I'm not sure, Senator, whether that's close or not, but.
So you pretty much nailed it. It's a joint operation between probation and the police, that if a person is on probation, the police have kind of an increased jurisdiction to go into their homes, to pull them over and to have increased interaction with them. It's been problematic for a long time. We've known that it's problematic for a long time. Keandra might want to speak to this too. I don't know if you do, but just putting it out there. I think you have some knowledge of of that operation as well. And it's absolutely something that ACLU has been recommending for us to get rid of for a long time. But you nailed it. It's essentially a joint operation that basically just allows for increased interactions. And so I know that earlier when I first jumped on, Keandra was talking about the restitution only probation. And, so for some that might not sound like a big deal, right? Because it just means that you have this money to pay. And so you're still accountable to people until you have to pay this money. But again, if you're constantly having to interact with police, if you're constantly having to interact with a probation officer, they're gonna find something. It's like how, you say, don't go looking for things that you don't want to find, and so essentially, if you're gonna continue to have interactions with a probation officer, we're all human. And so there's an increased likelihood that the probation officer is going to find something that they can violate you on, or that police officer from Operation Safe Street is going to find something that they can violate you on. That if you were not being increasingly and heavily monitored, would not land you back in prison, or would not land you in prison.
So Operation,
Sure.
oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask if it's only probationers that are targeted by Operation Safe Streets, or is it also people who are considered high risk for criminal activity? My son is a law student who's working with the ACLU on this, and he basically told me, I can tell you this, but don't tell anybody. You're not allowed to talk about it. It's really bad. So
Yes, it is. It's very bad. You're correct. It's a bunch of officers, Vogue officers, who are Wilmington police officers, as well as probation, as well as I call it the bad apples in each police department. When they don't know what else to do with them, they put them there. And it's not the problem of them only going after people who are on probation. If they're riding by, I live in the inner city of Wilmington. If they're riding by and they see a group of guys sitting on a porch, they will jump out of their cars. They will approach these guys, pull them up, throw them on a car. Like, it's very disgusting watching them. And I actually started going to the courthouse on Tuesdays and Thursdays every other week now. And I'm sitting in listening to guys in prison, their preliminary hearings. And the way the officers aren't even coming up to these guys while they're sitting on the porch asking, is this your family's house? Did your grandma live here? They're not asking them questions. They're barely asking them for ID. And they have no probable cause. It's illegal search and seizure. So our prison systems are filling up with a whole bunch of men and women. And by the time they go through the court process, the charges have to be thrown out because of the way that Operation Safe Streets handled the situation from the gate. These officers are beating up guys, they're terrorizing guys. And not only, I witness it in the communities, not only are they terrorizing people that are on probation in the community, they're terrorizing their family. They come in your house. If you're on probation, of course you sign a piece of paper that says that they can search wherever you stay at. And for me growing up and paying attention, if you're on probation and you live in a house, a lot of people say they sleep downstairs on the couch, okay? These officers, and that means that probation can only search the area that you sleep in, where you rest at. Well, Safe Streets comes in, and because you're on probation, they're searching the whole house. They don't care. Because you're on probation, they can go in your mom's room and your grandmom's room. They can do everything. And people, it's a guy actually that I'm bringing to the ACLU now who they came and ran up in his mother's house. It was passed down to him. He had his nephew staying there who was on probation. And they knocked over his mother's ashes that was on the mantelpiece in the house. They're just doing stuff that normal officers, how it shouldn't go. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Tyree Nichols case that is going on with the police killing him. So the Scorpion unit that you heard of in that case is the same unit that we have here throughout the state of Delaware. We have a bunch of them that started in Wilmington and somehow they trickled down all the way through the states. So these aren't officers who are getting these cases based off of following the legal measures that they're supposed to be taking. They're doing it illegal.
Let me ask this question. This may be out of bounds a little bit, but is there a circumstance where these police officers or probation officers are in fear of their own jobs and are looking just to make payroll for themselves?
I don't hear that. If you see these guys and you talk to them, they're big-headed. They're very confident. They believe they're following the law, and they don't really fear of anything. They just feel like they're untouchable. And they told me before, oh, what are you doing here? Just go somewhere. You can't do nothing to us. Who are you going to tell on? Who are you going to tell on us too? And that's just they're not fearful of anything. They act like a bunch of, I don't know, guys who maybe got beat up in school or something, and they feel like they're coming for repercussions. I don't know.
Thank you for that. Anyone else have any other questions for Marie or?
I'm wondering
Mm.
if you know of any organization that's written a general support letter that we could just grab and send out to our reps and senators. I don't know, Marie, if you know of one, because sometimes someone will take that on, right, and just sort of do the 3-4 paragraphs that we could use that are most impactful. In support of SB 345. Has that been done?
We haven't done a general support letter yet, but we can probably I can work with ACLU to see if we can get one going. We haven't done that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any examples of letters, I agree. Thanks, Kim. I think that's a great idea. We'd be happy to spread that around to our constituents here and the people involved in this call and our Peace and Justice Work Group team to make sure we spend some time to send out these letters in support of this bill.
Sure. Maybe what we'll do is do that when we get a little closer to putting it in committee.
Okay. Thanks. Be happy to do that.
Sure, it's a great idea.
Sort of a related question. Are there people in Sussex County or Republicans or people who might be open to education and influence to potentially support this that have not been supporting it in the past? And also, I'm just doing a quick Google search. I see that a gentleman named John Sebastian is the director of all this organization, and I don't know him from anything, but are there people that we might be able to educate and influence?
Sure. So as far as Sussex, the Way Home program is based in Sussex, and so they're helping us reach people down there. There's another organization that their name is slipping my mind right now, who's also helping us. The Sussex Dems, the Progressive Sussex Dems, all of them have are aware of the bill, that it's going to be coming, and are going to help us reach people as well. The first kind of Senate Sussex Republican that I'm going to reach out to will be Senator Pettyjohn, because Sussex County prison is in his district. It sits right in the middle of his district, so he should have a heavy investment in that prison system there. And so I'll be reaching out to him to see if he'll just at least have a conversation with me and gain some understanding of the bill. I probably won't do that until after the March 1st pre-file, though, so that he's able to see that it does have support from a diverse group of legislators. So I'll be talking with him. And then as far as John Sebastian, it can't hurt you to reach out to John. And I know John, I work with him. I work with Paul Shavik the most, both from DOC. So it can't hurt you to reach out to them. What I will say and what I will give them credit for is that DOC has been willing to engage in conversations around this bill. And so I've had several conversations with them already. They are not saying no yet, and hopefully we won't get there. They've been willing to have conversations. They've been willing to give me feedback, and so that's been helpful. If you have any relationship with people in the courts, that's going to be another group that I haven't had a chance to have a conversation yet with, but we'll be having one with them next week. And DOC / probation and parole is taking on a lot of the hit from this bill, but honestly, a lot of it has to do with the courts as well. So when we talk about the duration of time that people are on probation. The courts that starts with the courts. The courts are the ones that determine in the beginning how long a person is going to be ordered to on probation. Whereas then in the end, probation and parole can come and make a recommendation and say, hey, this person's been on probation for 8 months. They've been doing good. Maybe they only need to do 10 months. And then, but they make that recommendation back to the courts who makes the final decision. And so we need to be having conversations with people in the courts as well. And then we need to be putting some, I don't want to say pressure yet because they haven't said no, right? So we need to just kind of put it on their radar that we need support, and that we want them to engage in these conversations. And so, we talk a lot about probation and parole and DOC, and we should, but it's also going to require support from the courts as well. So if there are people there that through the work that you do, have conversations with them and talk to them about it, that would be really important too.
Could I ask you to just briefly outline the main points of the bill? Like what are the 1, 2, 3, 4 main points of the bill? Is that possible?
Sure. So the first thing is going to be the duration of probation, limiting probation to 1 year. Another is going to be ending reincarceration for technical violations of probation. So if you remember Honey saying people shouldn't be reincarcerated because they missed a check-in with their probation officer or because they had a positive drug test. People shouldn't be violated for that. Instead of that, if they're having a problem with substance abuse, they should be getting substance abuse treatment, not going back to prison. So that's the second thing, is ending the technical violations, returning people to prison. And then the third thing is that the bill will personalize probation. So people are only being ordered to do things that they actually need to do to be successful, and not having to have 5 different check-ins for 5 different programs when 2 of those or 3 of those programs aren't even anything that the person needs. So they're going to be getting personalized probation. And the fourth thing is that the bill is going to increase our data collection and dissemination. So it's going to make sure that we are collecting data significantly more than we do now, and that we're making it accessible, number one, and most importantly, for the person who is on probation and their lawyer, and also to the public. Those are the biggest things. There's a couple, almost a 20-page bill. So there's a couple of other small things too that the bill's doing, but those are the most important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Donna, thank you so much for what you mentioned about Dan Lowe. I'll reach out to him. I have spoken with Priscilla from Project New Start. She's been really, really helpful and really, 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 really supportive. So Project New Start is all on board for the bill.
Anyone else have a comment or question? All right. Well, it is 8 o'clock and we usually are here for an hour. I want to thank Keandra and Marie for being here, giving us the background of what's been going on, and a lot of good information around the SB 345 bill that's coming out. And I just want to pass along to all our friends and constituents here that we look forward to putting together and writing to our district representatives to hopefully get this bill passed and get in legislation as soon as possible.
If I could just leave you all with one more thing that I'm working on. I am going to be hosting the 2nd annual State of the State Corrections Summit. I hosted the first summit last year in early February, and it was a 2-day virtual summit talking about everything that's going on in probation in the state. It was a really, really impactful and profound conversation. And we're going to be bringing that back this year. It will be in person. We're hoping to have a hybrid model so that it will be streaming on Facebook if you can't make it out. But if you're able to, it will be on March 1st. From 10 to 5 at the Route 9 library. If can't be there all day. I understand there are several different sessions throughout the day. And if you send me an email, I can send you this more specific details. My email is Marie, MARIE, .Pinkney, pink like the color, NEY, @delaware.gov. And this year, because we're focusing on probation legislatively, the summit will talk a lot about what happens when you leave prison. So last year we talked about what happens when you're in prison, how you're treated, what it's like. But this year we're going to be talking about what happens when you come home, the barriers to access to housing, the discrepancies in your health care, barriers to education and employment. And perhaps the most important and most impactful session will be our Shut Up and Listen session. That's my favorite title. I think I'm quite clever for calling it that. And it is a session where we are only going to be hearing from the voices of people who have been in Delaware prisons and what their experiences are. And that's why I call it the Shut Up and Listen session, because all the important people, the people with the titles, the people with the power, we have to be quiet and just listen to the voices of the people who have historically been disenfranchised. And last year, this was the most impactful conversation that we had. Like I said, it was on Zoom, and I don't think there was a dry eye on the Zoom because it was really, really, really hard to listen to, but so important. And so if you can get to any of them, that would be the one to attend. And that one will be at 1 o'clock again. So that's on March 1st from 10 to 5 at the Route 9 Library. And we will have lunch and we'll have swag and we'll from a bunch of different organizations. So if you have an organization that you want represented or paperwork that you want represented talking about the services that you offer, you're welcome to get that to us, and we'll have a table for people to take information home with them as well.
Great, thank you for that.
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah, Marie, do you have Sue Linderman's email, I assume? Have you been-
Yes.
Yes. She's a convener and so am I, so I'll send you my email, but if you would send that information for the March 1st summit, we'll make
Absolutely.
sure that we distribute it to everybody here on this call, as well as other constituents within our church and members and families. So again, thank you so much for attending and giving us such great detail on what's going on, not only with the bill, but what's going on with this prison reform that is much needed. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening, for caring, and asking such engaging questions.
Great. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you, Keandra. Thank you, Marie.